Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 3rd of March 2025. We are live on the Wilms Front YouTube channel, the Wilms Front Rumble channel, and my Wilms Front X account. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where crime continues to spiral out of control. Residents in our suburbs are terrorized by youth gangs, home invasions, machete fights in the streets. This week it came to my local government area of Frankston. There was an attempted carjacking at the Shiners Jet Wash.
Good evening. A crazed man who tried to carjack several women during a terrifying rampage in Frankston has been arrested in a dramatic police swoop.
Let's go live now to Isabel Quinlan for the details on this breaking story. Izzy, where were they targeted?
Alicia, these series of terrifying attacks occurred in broad daylight at a car wash. Now, this vision shows the moment the man ambushes a woman who is vacuuming her car. It's understood he demands for her keys before he strikes her with some sort of metal pole, and that's when we see her run away in fear. He then follows her and launches two vicious punches directed towards her face. She tries to get back away and get back to her car, but he continues to try and chase her. A man believed to be the car wash attendant then comes to the woman's aid as the man takes off. Now, police say this attack is one of several attempted carjackings in the vicinity of the area that this man is accused of. This man then was arrested a short time later at a nearby bus stop. Alicia, the 24-year-old, is now assisting police with their inquiries. At this stage, no charges have been laid.
Okay, Isabel, thank you.
What an absolute scumbag, hitting a woman with what appears to be a metal pole. Now, they didn't say it on the news, but for those who are listening on the podcast, the attempted carjacker and assaulter was of African appearance. Now, that car wash is to the side of Frankston Cranbourne Road, a busy, it's sort of more like a highway through Frankston. So I know where it is. And I actually went past there on Friday morning and there was still I noticed a police crime scene vehicle there, but it looked like that they were just following up. But it was good to see the car wash still had plenty of customers, so that terrifying attempted carjacking didn't deter people from patroning it, because obviously that would have struck a lot of fear in a lot of people, thinking that you can just be cleaning your car and there could be a carjacker leap out. And that woman was pretty courageous to put up a fight there. She came back, and also a very courageous that car wash attendant there. I mean, they both should get bravery awards, and it looks like that man of African appearance, the bus stop that he was arrested at, that looked to be on Sky Road, which is further to the north of Frankston. Dawn Browning says, I know where it is too. You see all these stories, the terrifying crime stories on the news. I mean, last week there was that machete fight in Footscray between rival youth gangs. And then there was also a woman who was slashed with a machete in Dandenong. Now, Frankston, it's still got a reputation, even though we've been serial killer free for over 30 years since Paul Denyer terrorized Frankston, murdering 3 women in 1993, including Natalie Russell, who was David Limbrick, now Libertarian MLC's girlfriend at the time. And Frankston was also known for having a lot of drug use. The disappearance of Sarah McDermott from Cannonock Police Station, Cannonock train station, I should say, in 1990. It was suspected that she was kidnapped by some local junkies, although you're not allowed to use the term junkie anymore. You have to say people with substance issues. So she was never seen again. Now, I have been to Cannonock Station, parked my car, arrived back late at night. I don't feel scared there. Despite what happened, because it was so far ago, not in my lifetime. But yeah, the fact that this was just last week, it's pretty terrifying. And obviously, Frankston, despite it being a overwhelming, it's still a predominantly traditional Australian suburb. It's not immune from being culturally enriched. But the comedians, because it has been a suburb in the past where white people have committed heinous crimes and also been known for drug addiction, then it's been the butt of a lot of comedians' jokes. Because remember, it's okay to punch down on a white suburb where bad things happen. It was one of the jokes that Bougainville is in Frankston. But there's no sorts of these comedians, if they made a joke like about Wyndham Vale or Noble Park, these sorts of crime demographics there, they'd be cancelled. Now, Frankston has been gentrified over many years, and it's due to be gentrified and have some giant apartment towers. Jacinta Allen's next phase of her housing big build activity centres. Dawn Browning says, don't fluck around in the pines, Frankston Pines. Yeah, locals know to avoid certain areas. Who was the waiting for a mate guy? I don't, from Frankston. I'm not sure who you're referring to. Blair Cottrell is also from Frankston. I've seen him around town at various places throughout the years. So Jacinta Allen, because she has ordered a review of the state's bail laws because, the youths, they repeatedly are on bail when they've gone on one of their crime sprees. There was one youth who has been bailed 50 times. So we'll see what comes of this review. That just seems to want to kick the can down the road. But last week, she revealed more locations for what she terms the train and tram zones and pilot activity centres. So the purple here is, so you can see Frankston here is listed as a activity centre. So they're going to stick some high rises on the foreshore. And this is what the suburban rail loop, which Jacinta Allen is proceeding with, despite a pushback, including from her own MPs now. So she and Daniel Andrews, when they cooked it up, they decided to build the eastern part first. So Cheltenham to Box Hill, that's going to cost around $35 billion and will be completed by, we're told, 2034. Now, the Albanese government at the last federal election only committed 2.2 in federal funds. The Andrews-Allen government wanted the feds to kick in a third, though it's only just been released by the Infrastructure Minister, Catherine King, who said that it's got strict strings attached. She didn't release it until she was satisfied about the business plan. Now, the reason why the Allen and Andrews chose to build the eastern part first is because that's where all of their marginal seats were. But of course, at the Werribee by-election just last month, there was a 10% two-party preferred swing against the Labor Party, 16% primary swing. The SRL, Suburban Rail Loop West, isn't due to be completed in 2067. So the Liberals, they ran a campaign that public transport has been neglected in the West. So just last week, Anthony Albanese's government announced that they'd be chipping in another $2 billion for the mothballed Melbourne Airport rail link. They've already kicked in $5 billion. Now, this $2 billion is going to be solely for upgrading of the Sunshine Super Hub, because apparently this Super Hub needs to be built first. A train station costing over $2 billion to have 2 additional platforms. It's been called untangling it. So apparently that needs to happen. That's going to be happening early next year, before even the Melbourne Airport rail link is built. And that's not projected to be completed until 2033. So in 8 years. Flano Philosopher says, it was a highway patrol episode years ago. A bloke crashed his car onto a curb. Cops asked what he was doing, and he repeatedly said, I'm waiting for a mate. Well, I don't watch highway patrol, but of course they did an episode in Frankston, not surprisingly. And now Jacinta Allen, to also distract from her government's budget blowouts and inaction on Melbourne's crime boom, she was also one to pile on Marty Sheargold, the now ex-Triple M shock jock. Now, this was the #1 story in Australia last week. not crime, not national security, not the cost of living. No, it was Marty Sheargold's his appalling jokes, rubbishing of the Matildas, and also saying that endometriosis doesn't exist. So this where he said on the Monday his comments rubbishing the Matildas, then it was the next day what he said about endometriosis.
Football or soccer, it's been a nightmare tournament for the Matildas over the last 3 or 4 days over in the US.
You know what they remind me of? Year 10 girls. Now, I'm sorry to undermine the whole sport, but that's what I think of it, so you can stick it up your ass.
So we're playing in the She Believes Cup.
Oh, she believes in what? It better be men.
We're 12 months out from Australia hosting the Women's Asian Cup, so hopefully we have a bit of runway to improve before that comes around.
The Asian Cup. I'd rather hammer a nail through the head of my watch that. Got any men's sport?
Yeah, I do. Baseball.
Because God, don't ladies carry on. Jesus Christ, there is no end of it. Honestly. Endometriosis, and this is controversial.
Don't say
No, I'm going to say it. It's controversial.
Yeah.
It's made up.
There was some complete.
Now, Marty Sheargold, he probably got into more trouble for saying that endometriosis is made up. Now, I'm sure he doesn't believe that. So he was, the full clip of that was he was talking about how he's got back pain and he's in pain and claiming that ladies go on too much about endometriosis, which it is a real serious condition. Now, I'll say that in the backlash pile-on to Marty Sheargold, it's good that we have our political leaders now acknowledging that endometriosis only affects women, because there was a lot of health messaging that said people with endometriosis. I can't get endometriosis because I don't have a uterus. Now, going back to his comments on the Matildas, they were complete rubbish in the She Believes Cup, which is an invitation-only tournament in the United States. It's based on the United States national women's soccer team She Believes campaign. And the Matildas lost all of their 3 matches, and they also were terrible at the Paris Olympics, but they are still national heroes, icons, because they came 4th in the 2023 Women's World Cup. So you're still not allowed to be critical of them. Now, this Anthony Albanese was on rival radio station Nova in Melbourne the next day with Jason Lauren in the morning, who were eager for the Prime Minister to give a free kick to their rival station, because Triple M is owned by Southern Cross Austereo, which also owns the Hit network. So they're a big commercial media radio company, and Nova is also a big player in that. So there was also a commercial reason, I think, why they wanted to sink the boot in to Marty Sheargold as well.
Made yesterday by a radio broadcast involving women's sport. Where do you sit on it all?
They were just shocking comments that anyone could think it, let alone say it. Completely unacceptable. The Tillies are just legends. They excited and brought together the whole country. Women's and girls' sport has been a revolution in my lifetime.
They're not only clumsy, they're offensive comments. What would you say?
He also made some comments as well about endo not being
of
real.
course.
You know, we need to respect each other, and disrespecting more than half the population is not on.
Okay,
There's no
so
room for it.
blokes out there very much in the minority that might think that's funny. What's your
Well, it's
message?
just not funny.
It's not.
offensive. These are great athletes. They're better footballers than all the blokes who'd be critiquing them, frankly.
And now, the young Socceroos, the men's under-20 team, they won the under-20 Asian Cup on the weekend. A penalty, it was decided by a penalty shootout against Saudi Arabia in China. So the men's youth team, that was a big achievement, a great, much greater achievement than the Matildas losing all of their She Believes matches, which was only against 3 other countries: Colombia, Japan, and the USA.
Shouldn't be being hacked.
I make this point as well. Remember the Olympics? Remember as the gold medals came through? They had something in common.
They're all women.
They're all women. They're all women.
They're all women.
Yes.
Putting the blokes to shame.
So this is Victoria's Men's Behavioural Change Minister, Tim Richardson, the member for Mordialloc. So this is his takeaway from
the
Marty
takeaways from the
Sheargold's
Marty Sheargold comments and the fallout that we're seeing. was really important that Triple M called out this behaviour and said that it was not part of their culture and standards. But in that moment, in the radio studio, rather than laughter and banter, we needed those lads to call out that behaviour and to say, mate, that's not on, that's disrespectful towards women, that's unacceptable. And that's the up standard that we need in each and every frame in our community, because not calling out that behaviour and allowing that disrespect to fester can allow and justify and even promote poor attitudes towards women and violence in the future. If we're able to intervene early, if we're able to call that out, we create a safer and more inclusive and fairer society for women and girls. And that's upon all of us, but particularly men and boys, to call it out, to be upstanders and create a more safe and equal society for our women and girls.
Yes, so Marty Sheargold's crass jokes, they can lead to domestic violence. And this was the Premier, Jacinta Allen. She uploaded this to her social media to also, I mean, it's also a chance for them to be sanctimonious as well as distract from the poor job that they are doing.
Marty Sheargold has been forced to apologise this morning after making a series of misogynistic remarks. The comedian is now facing widespread condemnation.
Now, those comments were just crap, but what's made me wild with rage are his comments that endo isn't real, that it isn't real pain. Well, anyone who's watching this, who like me has had endo, who's lived with it, you know that pain is real. And you also know that too often a system doesn't see it and recognise it. Well, I see it, I recognise it. Women's pain is real. Women's pain needs to be seen, heard.
And this is what Jacinta Allen uploaded to her social media. Women's sports is real sports. Women's pain is real pain. Again, I'm glad that she acknowledges that only women can get endometriosis. Though, why is it called endo for short? I mean, like I said, like it's not a disease then I can catch, but we don't call cancer cancer, like we're giving it some sort of nickname. So that was sort of a bit weird, I found. I'd like to know what the ladies in the chat. Linda Hunter says, what is it she believes? And I think Marty Sheargold, he was also called a homophobe for saying it better be men, because a lot of the Matildas are lesbians. And now I thought that Tracy Holmes, Stan Grant's wife, had a good point. Why is the nation outraged at what some guy said on the radio program than what the actual captain of the Matildas, Sam Kerr, said to a London police officer, calling him fucking stupid and white? And now she faced no legal consequences for that. Well, it should have never gone to trial, but she's not being forced to hand back the captaincy of the Matildas. She's out with an ACL injury still. And her English Women's Super League club, Chelsea, has said, we're not going to take any internal actions. Tristan Chase says, does anyone in that party not look and sound like Daniel Andrews? I think you're talking about Tim Richardson there. Dawn said Morty Alec had their festival this weekend, good demographics. Yeah, I would say that it's more of a traditional Australia demographic, though there's a lot of, shall we say, not locals who come to the beach during summer. The beaches are much more diverse around the Morty Alec area. So originally, Triple M, they and Marty Sheargold put out a statement. First, it was that Marty Sheargold's comments regarding the Matildas made on Triple M Drive on Monday, 24th February, do not align with Triple M's views and values, and Triple M remains steadfast in its strong support of all women's and men's sports. We sincerely apologise for any offence or distress caused. Marty Sheargold also said, any comedy, including mine, can miss the mark sometimes, and I can see why people may have taken offence at my comments regarding the Matildas. I sincerely apologise, Marty. Though then Southern Cross Austereo released another statement that he had been sacked. Sorry, Triple M and Marty Sheargold had mutually agreed to part ways. Southern Cross Austereo takes its responsibility to listeners, shareholders and clients seriously, and its programming should align with the standards and expectations of its audience. Right now, it's clear this is a moment for reflection and review. Triple M and the wider SCA network will continue to take all necessary steps to support staff. A new drive show will be announced in due course. Triple M acknowledges Marty's contribution over the past 4 years and wish him well for the future. Marty Sheargold said, having mutually agreed to part ways with Triple M Network, I fully understand the gravity of my comments. I'd like to sincerely apologise to the Matildas and the broader organisation. I'd like to thank them for their hard work and apologise for the situation they now find themselves in. Now, Marty Sheargold, he has been a staple of the FM, the breakfast radio scene for over 20 years. But recently there's been a real target on his head. And it was last year, Devere Abramovich had a go at him because he made some comments about Passover and Easter. So Jewish leader labels Marty Sheargold's on-air remarks deeply troubling. Sheargold was in conversation with colleagues Lauren Barry and Troy Ellis about how Easter and Passover cross paths this year. Barry said Easter can occur on any Sunday between March 22 and April 25. So it is the April 19 is Easter Sunday this year. That won't be the federal election. It won't be April 18, the federal election date, that's for sure. So I'm getting my dates mixed up. So it'll be, April 21. Easter's exact date varies so much because it depends on the moon. Early Christians wanted Easter to coincide with Passover because Christ's death and resurrection happened after the Jewish holiday, but because the Jewish calendar is tied to solar and lunar cycles, the dates of Passover and Easter fluctuate each year. Now, Passover is a week before Easter, and Alex Rifkin, a chief executive officer of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, says that if Anthony Albanese calls the federal election for the week before, it'll clash with Passover. So I assume it'll be an anti-Semitic election. After a laugh over Barry's pronunciation of fluctuate, Sheargold says, and of course, I should have known it would rely on what the Jewish people wanted. Dr. Devere Abramovich, chair of the Anti-Defamation Commission, said he'd received several complaints about the comments. Really, Marty Sheargold, is that how low and nasty your comedy has sunk that you are now normalizing anti-Semitic stereotypes on your show at a time of shocking spike in harassment, targeting and violence against Australian Jews? It is deeply troubling that Marty Sheargold used his platform to spew degrading and hateful myths about Jews having too much power and control. While we at the ADC value humour, I could have sworn that Devere has no sense of humour and understand that entertainers often push the envelope and boundaries. Marty Sheargold should have known better. Denigrating any group by implying that they are selfish and do not care about anyone else is never appropriate or funny. That such a hurtful statement was made in the religious context is disturbing. Those in show business need to ensure their on-air statements do not cross the line with hateful lines that call up ethnic slurs which generate laughter at the expense of others. The bottom line, such jokes are out of line. I call on Marty Sheargold to apologise and reflect on his behaviour. I'm also willing to meet with him to explain to him the history of anti-Semitism and how we all need to lock arms in combating this scourge. I'm surprised that Devere didn't say that Marty Sheargold spat in the face of Holocaust survivors and disrespected the diggers. And also he was suspended from Triple M over some unfortunate remarks he said at some sponsors at a Triple M Grand Final event. So there's been a target on his head for a while, and this gave his critics the perfect ammunition to take him out. And of course, Australia is famous for the tall poppy syndrome, really sinking the boot into somebody. Marty Sheargold also stars in Australia's most popular sitcom at the moment, Fisk, written and performed by Kitty Flanagan. I'm not sure if anyone in the chat is fans of Fisk. I've always found it quite funny. So Marty Sheargold plays Ray Gruber, one of the partners at the probate and wills firm that Kitty Flanagan's character, Helen Shooter Fisk, works at. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if... I'm always learning more. Oh, bloody Alexa. I know what sets her off. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Marty Sheargold does not return for the 4th series, though they did sort of write out his character at the end of the 3rd series. And Kitty Flanagan, she's pretty left, given that she's been a correspondent for The Project and also The Weekly with Charlie Pickering, and also another one of the co-stars on Fisk, Julia Zamiro. She's a real lefty, hosting Zoom meetings, Climate 200 candidates at the last federal election. Like Marty said in his statement, sometimes humour misses the mark, but for him to lose his job over that, I mean, most people would say that Kyle Sandilands has been more consistently crass over the years, but he and Jackie O got poached by, they used to be at Southern Cross Austereo, Today FM, and got poached by by KISS FM, Australian Radio Network, though Kyle obviously now has a brain tumour, so we wish him well. But despite all of Kyle's indiscretions, Anthony Albanese and Chris Minns, the New South Wales Premier, went to his wedding. So I saw there was some Batuta Advocate article which purported to say that Kyle Sandilands thought Marty Sheargold crossed the line. And now this Saturday, the 8th of March, it is the West Australian state election. So I'll be hosting a Western Australian election night stream. Now, it'll be very late on a Saturday night because daylight savings Western Australia is 3 hours behind. So it will start at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, when the polls close over in West Australia at 6 p.m. It is projected to be a comfortable re-election for the Labor Premier, Roger Cook, who took over from Mark McGowan in 2023. Obviously, the McGowan slide in 2021 during the state's COVID hard border, as he called it, saw him, two-party preferred was 69 to 31. Labor Party won 53 seats out of 59. The Liberals won 2. So I do predict that under the Western Australian Liberal Party leadership of Lydia Metham, she will increase the size of her caucus. We'll see if there is a surprise that sort of more Western Australians on the day decide to lodge a protest vote, or they want to equalise things more. I've seen Libby Metham in the media. She certainly, I mean, she's only got the job because, well, the WA Liberal caucus can basically fit in a van, and she's the only one, only one of the few ones there. I don't think that she can pull off a Palachuk, who came back from seven MPs out of 89 in 2012 to form a minority government against Campbell Newman in 2015. Yes, they still vote in WA, just as the current polls are projecting. Overwhelming majority still vote for the Labor Party. Now, there's rumours that Anthony Albanese will call the election for, I'll get the dates right, Saturday, April 12th, on the Sunday after the WA state election. He'll be on stage with Roger Cook on election night. But again, that would mean that it's an anti-Semitic election date. And I don't know if Anthony Albanese wants that. It obviously can't be the next Saturday because that's Easter Saturday. And then the next available weekend is Saturday is Anzac Day. And so that leaves May 3 and May 10th. Or the latest it can be is May 17. He could decide to hang on until May just because the polls have been just so terrible for the Labor Party this week. But that's why Anthony Albanese has opened up the checkbook once again on his preferred battleground, which is health, which is announcing 50 more urgent care clinics costing an extra $644 million in the next financial year. So 87 have opened so far. Now, the purpose of these is to take pressure off emergency departments, and they are free for Medicare card holders. So, because as I said last week, Australians expect primary healthcare to be free. As you all know, I'm a libertarian, but I accept as a political reality that Australians believe in free healthcare, and there's been a massive decline in GP bulk billing over the past 3 years. And of course, that was Anthony Albanese's promise, spending commitment last week, extra $8 billion over 4 years to bulk billing. So he wants 9 out of 10 GP visits to be bulk billed. As I said to you last week, I pay the gap at the doctors because if you do find a bulk bill GP, you'll be waiting 4 hours. That's the reality of if you want to get a free GP visit. That's why the emergency departments are were so swamped post-COVID, not because people were sick with COVID, because they didn't want to pay for a doctor. And now, Peter Dutton said "me too" to the extra, for the extra bulk billing incentives, but he hasn't said "me too" to the urgent care clinics, because he said that they're skewed towards Labor electorates. Anthony Albanese said that he wants all Australians to be within a 20-minute drive of an urgent care clinic. A 20-minute neighbourhood, 15-minute city. That's also the point of Jacinta Allen's activity centres, that you won't need a car to get to all the services around you. And if you need to travel somewhere, you can just catch the train. You won't drive and you'll be happy. Although Peter Dutton did say "me too" to Anthony Albanese's freeze on the indexation of the draft beer excise, which actually would have been good 2 years ago. So we've got, at the moment, the draft beer excise is increased twice a year in line with inflation. So the reason why your pint at the pub or just at the or just getting a six-pack at the bottle-o keeps going up is because Albo thinks you are stupid and won't notice that he's skimming the top of your beer. So basically, think of the foam there as the tax that Albo's getting off your beer. Though nothing, no freeze on spirits, which I saw John Ruddock, the Libertarian New South Wales MLC, say is sexist because ladies more prefer spirits. Though men also drink Jim Beam, which is whiskey spirits. That also, I mean, compared to beer and cider, a premix of spirits like vodka cruisers and the Jack Daniels or the Jim Beam, the premix is so much more expensive. A lot of that is to do with the Alcopops tax that Kevin Rudd introduced when he was in his nanny state phase as Prime Minister. Also flirted with raising the drinking age to 21. Kevin Rudd and Julie Gillard were also big on health spending. Their big thing was the GP super clinic. So it's sort of a bit of a rebadging of the Rudd Gillard GP super clinic. These urgent care clinics. I noticed that there's one in Frankston. Hopefully, the reason why there's not more demand in the future because there's more crime victims there. That certainly we don't want to see this town slide down again. Now, Peter Dutton, he finally had an original policy of his own, and that is that the coalition would purchase the 28 extra F-35 Joint Strike Fighter jets. So the Albanese government originally ordered 100, then scaled it back to 72. So Peter Dutton has said, oh, we'll order the extra 28, though it'll cost $3 billion. So this was in the aftermath of the Chinese Navy's live fire exercises that they embarked all around the Tasman Sea last week. Now, Anthony Albanese, he claimed that his government was notified of the impending live fire drill exercises, but we learnt from Senate estimates last week that the notice was given to a Virgin pilot via naval radio navigation, basically saying turn this way. So this is basically did a lap of Papua New Guinea, who got 2 weeks notice and then came down the Tasman Sea. So this is confirmed by China state TV. So all we heard from Rich Miles, the defense minister, is that, oh well, we're not satisfied we got enough notice. Now, in Senate estimates, Penny Wong said to James Patterson, "Oh, are you trying to make China an election issue again?" Basically saying, "Oh, Scott Morrison and Peter Dutton, they tried to accuse us of being Manchurian candidates for the CCP, and you lost all of the seats with large Chinese speaking ethnic population." So she's basically threatening, you really want to go down that road again? You really don't want to win back Chisholm in Melbourne and Benelog and Parramatta in Sydney. And of course, they nearly lost Menzies at the last federal election held by the Liberals' Keith Wallahan, who's under the redistribution, now has the biggest Chinese diaspora in Australia. And we know that the CCP has told us that they view all members of the Chinese diaspora, wherever they are in the world, as people of the Chinese race and loyal to the People's Republic of China, views them as some sort of sleeper agent. So it will likely activate them again during the federal election to vote the way it wants. Now, I said last week that why is the CCP trying to jeopardize Anthony Albanese's election, their handsome boy, as they called him, by having these provocative live fire exercises? Or maybe they're playing 4D chess. Maybe they wanted to provoke the coalition, in particular its Shadow Home Affairs Minister, James Patterson, and its Shadow Defence Minister, Andrew Hastie, because they're part of they were part of the bipartisan Wolverines with Kimberly Kitching, so China Hawks. So maybe it was to provoke them to warn about the CCP being a threat to our region once again. And so maybe they wanted to provoke that, and so they can say, look, to the Chinese voters in Australia on Chinese social media, look, do you really want to re-elect this, they would call them anti-China people to government again? Because you have to remember that although this was a show of military might, naval might, a lot of what China does is it's this information warfare. So 4D chess, it's not just confined to the Trump administration. Now, despite this provocative display by the Chinese Navy, Anthony Albanese is still proceeded business as usual with a photo op at the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras on Saturday night. Hang on, is that Anthony Albanese doing a Nazi salute there? That's what it looks like he's doing there. Now, of course, this is the absurdity of mandatory 1 year in prison under federal law for a Nazi salute. By simply waving your hand, it can appear as if you're performing a Nazi salute. And all of the Labor rainbow, there's his a fiance there, Jodie Hayden next to him, or as Danger Jan Andrews says, my freeloading rent-a-girlfriend. And Albo and Jodie, they did a soft interview with Carl Stefanovic on 60 Minutes last night. He did Peter Dutton the week before. I wonder if Carl Stefanovic will do all the leaders, and maybe he'll do one with Adam Bant next week. He even did one with Lydia Thorpe a couple of years ago. Linda Hunter says, crikey, when isn't false Pride Parade month? Yeah, John Ruddock read out all of the different rainbow days in the New South Wales Parliament. Yeah, we can't even get our CBDs for Australia Day. Yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, Rainbow Labor are wearing the Pride Progress flags, which has all the intersectional, trans, the colours on it. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen this circulating on social media, but this occurred at the Mardi Gras. A man dressed up in the traditional Aboriginal garb, although I'm not sure the high heels are traditional Aboriginal clothing. is holding a spear against a man dressed as Jesus Christ, using a tree as a makeshift cross. So instead of a crucifixion of Jesus Christ, it's a spearing. And now we have these new hate crime laws federally threatening violence against a group. Now, wouldn't this be classified as threatening violence against a group? And now, of course, I don't support these new hate crime laws, but again, the two-tier policing. I mean, will he be questioned? Will both of these, I think they're men, be questioned? They may not identify as men. Will they be questioned by the police over this display here? And now, this is, I'm not sure if this is the same Aboriginal man. It looks like he's wearing under his, what is that, garb there, a G-string. And here he is again with some black drag queen. I didn't know they had drag queens in the ancient Aboriginal Australia. I'm sorry. That's I think too much. Now, it is the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras was also held on the same night as the start of the holy month of Ramadan, Muslim fasting month. And now the A-League, which includes the men's and women's A-League, is having, it's not a pride round, it's a pride celebration from the 14th and 30th of March, helping to make football accessible, inclusive and safe for all. And now, obviously, as I previously mentioned, women's soccer, there's lots of lesbians there. There's only one gay player in the men's A-League, Josh Cavallo, but he's been injured of recent years and has just been on the bench of late. So why do they have it on the men's? Well, because the A-League is going to take breaks during A-League matches for Ramadan, so because they occur in the evening, so that Muslim players can break their fast. Are they going to be wearing the pride jerseys as well? They're going to be wearing the pride jerseys for like 2 to 3 weeks, and Melbourne Victory and Adelaide United play, men's A-League team play for the Pride Cup. Now, staying on the topic of Islam, one of the nurses at Bankstown Hospital who said they wouldn't treat Israeli patients and in fact kill them has been charged, but it's the female nurse, Sarah Abu Lebda. So she was the one that jumped in halfway through. So she's been charged under federal law for threatening violence to a group. So that's new hate crime laws. So it is being utilised, using a carriage service to threaten to kill and using a carriage service to menace or offend. And then did you also see this week that the New South Wales Education Department suspended this support worker at Granville Boys High School, Sheikh Wesham Chakawir, for defending the nurses on his private social media. He said that what they said shouldn't be taken literally, and I assume that's going to be the nurses' defences in court. Now, the Muslim students at this, and now it is a state school, staged a protest where they shouted Allahu Akbar, and the New South Wales Education Department caved and reinstated him. Now, with the federal election, could be called this weekend, or still, Jim Chalmers could still actually deliver a federal budget at the end of March. Although we've had a late entrant into the right-wing Freedom Minor Party scene, the Trumpet of Patriots Party, which Clive Palmer is financially bankrolling, which because he couldn't get United Australia Party registered again for this election because it had already been deregistered this election cycle, lost his High Court appeal. And so Trumpet of Patriots, obviously pun intended. So you may have already seen the ads on, if you watch TV or on social media, by the Trumpet of Patriots leader, Sue Ellen Wrightson, who's been with Clive Palmer's various political parties since 2013. And I remember she was on the 2019 United Australia Party ads as the United Australia Party candidate for Warringah. And now Trumpet of Patriots and also One Nation did not attend the minor party Freedom Summit held this weekend. So the Libertarian Party and the Family First Party, Gerard Rennick's People First Party, and also the Heart Party, they all got together because obviously we have a preferential voting system in Australia in both the lower and upper house, but on the right, Naughty Design says, Tim, are you okay? You seem more out of sorts. Seriously, I'm perfectly fine. You're saying that my demeanor is not good, or I'm just not looking well? If you could please specify. So Gerard Rennick was actually in Melbourne on Saturday night to announce his candidate for us Victorians to vote for. So it's a familiar name in the Melbourne freedom scene, Chris Neal. So he stood for the Australian Federation Party last federal election that merged with the Trumpet of Patriots Party. Now the Heart Party, that is the new name for the Informed Medical Options Party. So the Heart Party, it stands for Health, Environment, Accountability, Rights and Transparency. So it's a freedom party. When I first heard of the name Heart Party, I was sort of like, what the hell's that? Linda Hunter says, I admire Gerard Rennick. Yeah, he got a slap down from James McPherson, who was filling in Outsiders yesterday for Incident Estimates, asking about who could be the possible foreign actors behind the spate of funding the spate of anti-Semitic attacks, vandalism, arson in Australia, and he suggested might it be Mossad. And so because Sky News is 100% pro-Israel, although some of their presenters are soft on standing with Ukraine, unlike Andrew Bolt and Sharry Markson, but are still 100% pro-Israel. Now, Gerard Rennick responded, mentioning the Lavrov affair and also the USS Liberty incident, shall we say, attack sinking. So I saw a lot of the nationalists say that, look, we've all got to volunteer for Gerard Rennick now. He's up against Malcolm Roberts in his quest for re-election up in Queensland. And now Malcolm Roberts, like Pauline Hanson, is a Zionist. Remember, Pauline Hanson wore that Israeli flag in the Senate one time. Now, Gerard Rennick, if you've been following his, now that he is unburdened, not with Liberal National pre-selection, he's got quite based views. He's a very deep thinker, particularly when it comes to all of the globalists and the neocons. So Corey Bernardi was similar in a way. I mean, he was anti-globalist, anti-neocon. You describe them more as paleoconservatives, because Jared Rennick is certainly not a libertarian when it comes to economic matters. Bruce says Pauline Hanson blocked me. Lol. And Naughty Design says Hanson has shut the bed harder than Amber. Well, she might respond, at least I'm the only one who's given a shit over the past 30 years. All right, let's go over to the White House, which, well, the lead up to the big bust up, argument between Vladimir Zelenskyy and President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. So the 2 days before, it was French President Emmanuel Macron, then UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. There was a bit of alarm in Australia when Trump didn't know what AUKUS was. The Albanese and Dutton said, oh, you can't remember all of the acronyms all of the time. And now Vladimir Zelenskyy, I noticed that Mark Dice gives him the nickname Voldemort Zelenskyy. He was there to sign the minerals agreement with the United States. Now, this minerals agreement did not contain any US security guarantees for Ukraine, though it appears that Zelenskyy was trying to, if you've watched the whole thing, back out of the minerals deal signing in real time. And I like that Trump has set up this deal, because he's basically showing the world, look, this is what the Western support for Ukraine is all about, getting the rich minerals there. Don't forget that Hunter Biden and John Kerry's son were on the board of that Ukrainian energy company, Burisma. So there's been all of these Western hands in Ukraine for more than a decade. And so Zelenskyy was basically wanting to renegotiate the minerals deal live when the cameras were there. Like normally what happens is there's the pleasantries in front of the cameras, then they go to the behind closed doors, and then they have, as they're called, the Barneys, the bust ups. And I'll play the last 7 minutes where it all kicks off so you can all see it again, though I will probably talk over it. And it all begins when Zelenskyy basically admits that I'm not going to sign any peace deal ceasefire with Putin because I can't trust him. And so Trump is basically like, what are you doing here?
Big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him. A lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring people, you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what you're
this.
doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think
You're gambling with World War III.
What are you
You're
thinking
gambling
about?
with
What are you
World
thinking
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of
that was
appreciation
when
for the United States of America
Shapiro
and the president who's
signed
trying to
a
save your country.
deal with Pennsylvania, and he
Please.
signed that
You
missile.
think that if you will
was
speak very loudly
Ukraine
about
aimed
the
at
war,
Russia.
you
He's
can
not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
He's talking
equipment.
about
You
Biden's
men are brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
that there,
to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have
This
the
was all
cards.
40 minutes in, by
You're
the way.
buried
This
there.
is
You're-
the last 7
people
minutes.
are dying.
I can tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't please,
you're running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was with
wasn't with you.
a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
He needs the Trump card.
Vice President, I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
That was gold.
Okay? What if they broke it? I
Like,
don't know. They
you
broke
can have
it with
an
Biden
endless
because
what
Biden,
if
they didn't
possible.
respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war.
The special counsel.
He went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think?
What's this negotiation?
This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right. We'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thanks.
So, absolutely unprecedented. I think everyone agrees on that. But Zelenskyy was the one who decided that he would start negotiating in front of the world's media. Maybe, like, people are saying that it was Trump and Vance trying to bait Zelenskyy. I think it was the other way around. Zelenskyy trying to bait Trump and Vance into calling him out so he could get the rest of the Western world's globalist leaders to once again praise him, and they all did. They all had their NPC X posts ready to go. Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President, your dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. You are never alone, dear President Zelenskyy. USA will continue working with you for a just and lasting peace. And repeated by Roberta Mestola and by Antonin Costa and by Valdes Domobrascu. So it was all the copy and paste, and Volodymyr Zelenskyy, he reposted them all and said, thank you for your support. Reposted our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, who said, we stand with Ukraine. Peter Dutton also said today, we stand with Ukraine. So no matter who you vote for in the next federal election, you're voting to stand with Ukraine. If you're voting for the Uni Party, and now the likely new chancellor in Germany after their general election, Friedrich Merz of the Christian Democrat Union, has reaffirmed Germany's support for Ukraine and wants to have another grand coalition, or we call it Uni Party here, with the Social Democratic Party, which is in the power at the moment, so with Olaf Scholz as the as the Chancellor. And also, he broke a world record, I think, for breaking an election promise. Frederick Merz said the border will not close or will remain open. So maybe Peter Dutton will say that after the election, that, yeah, the planes are just going to keep coming in. We're still going to be importing all these hundreds of thousands of people this year. And so Zelenskyy was kicked out of the White House. The minerals deal was not signed. Now, there was a lot of people who decided that they could read Marco Rubio's mind because he was sitting back there with this very grim face on him. Now, Marco Rubio, when he accepted the position of Secretary of State, he openly said that his role is to implement President Trump's agenda, and so defended the Trump and Vance's handling of the meeting, and also did the biggest Republican neocon in the Senate, Lindsey Graham, who has gone on many visits to Kyiv to stand with Zelenskyy in Ukraine, said he'd never been more proud of his president of his country, and that we don't feel that we can do business with Zelenskyy. I mean, you have to give Trump credit for having a full MAGA takeover of the Republican Party, that he's got all of the, now you could even call them ex-neocons, Rubio and Graham, backing his position on Ukraine. Though, of course, all the military aids continues to flow to Israel. The end of the first phase of the ceasefire has ended. So it's stalled for negotiations for phase 2. Israel suspended all aid to Gaza. In my opinion, the Israel-Gaza-Hamas war is less of a threat to the world stability, because it is pretty much impossible for it to become a nuclear war, even if Iran does get involved. Well, we know that they don't have a nuclear death wish. And this is why the Russia-Ukraine war is much more of a threat to humanity. And this is why, thankfully, there was never a nuclear war in the Cold War, which would have been the end of the world. There were several close calls. And this is also why Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, because Zelenskyy, after Trump kicked him out of the White House, ran crying over to Downing Street, and he had a love-in with Keir Starmer at 10 Downing Street, where they exchanged pleasantries, and then Keir Starmer talked about his preferred Ukraine peace plan.
Cheers on the street outside. You have full backing across the United Kingdom, and we stand with you, with Ukraine, for as long as it may take. And I hope you heard some of that cheering in the street. That is the people of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, outside 10 Downing Street, there was Stand With Ukraine signs.
How much they support Ukraine.
It was like a royal visit. Didn't meet King Charles.
To stand with you, unwavering determination, and to achieve what we both want to achieve, which is a lasting peace for Ukraine, based on sovereignty and security for Ukraine. So important for Ukraine, so important for Europe, and so important for the United Kingdom. So I'm much looking forward to our discussions here this afternoon. Thank you very much for making the time to come.
With pleasure. Thank you very much, Keir. Mr. Prime Minister, happy to be here. And really, I saw
just get a room already.
I want to thank you, people of the United Kingdom, such big support from the very beginning of this war. Thank you, your team. And I'm very happy that His Majesty the King accepted my meeting tomorrow, and I'm thankful that you organized such a great summit for tomorrow.
King Charles and Queen Camilla have also been busy preparing dates for Ramadan.
We signed with you historic documents.
100-year agreement.
Yeah, we have only with you such documents with the United
Rachel
Kingdom.
Reeves
So we're happy
signed some more money away.
We count on your support, and really, we're really happy that we have such partners and such friends.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lydia.
First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine.
Like Tony Blair did with George W. Bush in Iraq.
Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air, together with others. Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace in our continent and to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing. We're working with the US on this point after my meeting with President Trump last week. And let me be clear, we agree with the President on the urgent need for a durable peace. Now we need to deliver together. Finally, we agreed that leaders will meet again very soon to keep the pace behind these actions and to keep working towards this shared plan. We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act, time to step up and lead, and to unite around a new plan for a just and enduring.
So, Keir Starmer says that, well, we basically can't defend our continent without a US backing of the peace in Ukraine. Now, security guarantees, does that mean that because they're saying that Putin will invade again, does that mean that the US and the so-called NATO peacekeeping troops, or they probably won't be branded NATO, it would become a hot war in Ukraine? Now, you can see Keir Starmer standing in front of, it says, Securing Our Future. This was the name of the summit. So the Securing Our Future London summit. So there's Zelenskyy, the only man without a suit there. That was the first question he was asked in the White House. And he said, oh, I'll have a costume when my country's not at war. And that was his justification for not wearing a suit, the only man there not wearing a suit. You can see at the back there, the former Dutch Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, who is now the Secretary General of NATO. Now, he's said that one of his biggest beefs with Europe is that basically the US has been bankrolling NATO, what was its purpose after the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet bloc Warsaw Pact? And now, NATO is a military alliance, which an attack on one is an attack on all. Although Claire Lehman, who's been losing her mind, the editor of Quillette, said in a podcast with Barry Weiss of the Free Press and Brianna Wu, it was always a mistake to think that these people who thought that the left had gone too far were cultural conservatives. I mean, they're all neocons. I mean, are they going to volunteer themselves and their spouses and their children to the war in Ukraine? And also, Claire Lehman, she lost her mind over RFK Jr.'s nomination and confirmation as health secretary, and also during COVID. This is what she said at the start of COVID. In good times, I'm a centrist libertarian, but in hard times, I'm pragmatic. Whether it is the nationalization of utilities, Keynesianism, stimulus, quarantine, and surveillance, if it works, do it. Scale it back later. Now, she claims or leads us to believe that she is well read. Though, if you've read a history book, you know that governments after crisis do not scale it back. I mean, the seminal work is Robert Higgs, A Crisis in Leviathan, the ratchet effect, particularly during wars, ratcheting up the state apparatus. It never goes back. And none of these things work that she's talking about. And so she said on that podcast with Barry Weiss and Brianna Wu that the US would be obliged under NATO Article 5 if peacekeepers were attacked by Russia in Ukraine. Article 5 only covers if it's an attack on the country, not on troops of a NATO nation in a non-NATO country. So otherwise, then NATO could have gotten involved in the Black Hawk Down in Somalia in 1993. Now, JD Vance, obviously it's quite unprecedented for a US vice president to get involved in the back and forths between a president and a world leader. They wouldn't have done this without Trump's backing. When Keir Starmer visited the White House, Vance told the Europeans at the Munich Security Conference the same thing, their lack of respect for free speech and being afraid of Elon Musk's X. Asked Keir Starmer about the lack of free speech in his country.
With our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud.
Yeah, I think Keir Starmer means very proud of our recent history in suppressing free speech. And I noticed a comment up here by Brett Norman. Europe can't even stop third world immigrants in dinghies. Good luck with the bear. Exactly. I mean, they can't stop. It can't even stop being invaded from the Middle East and North Africa. So no wonder Keir Starmer admitted that he could not secure peace in Ukraine without US backing. And Trump actually made this point. We should spend less time worrying about Putin and more time worrying about migrant rape gangs, drug lords, murderers, and people from mental institutions entering our country so that we don't end up like Europe. That was a pretty big burn as well. Now, somebody who is a member of the intellectual dark web like Claire Lehman, but has actually been making some, I would say, based points lately is Konstantin Kisin of trigonometry. And now he made he had the standard reaction to the Trump Vance versus Zelenskyy meeting until he watched the whole thing and realized that Zelenskyy was basically the one that started it all. And he has said that Ukraine's survival future can only be with a peace deal. So he's finally accepted reason. And he also has kickstarted this renewed focus on English and British identity. So this was I talked about this last week. So Fraser Nelson, who is the former editor of The Spectator magazine, which is now edited by Michael Gove, he tried to argue on trigonometry that Rishi Sunak is English, and Konstantin Kisin said that's absurd. Though he did concede that he can be seen as a British Indian, but I'm sure you'd all agree in this chat that British identity, ethnicity is, because Britain it's England, Wales, and Scotland. That is what is Britain. So only the English, the Scottish, and the Welsh can be British. And it's funny that Keir Starmer talks about Ukraine has the right to be an independent nation, but the Uni Party in the UK, the Conservatives and Labour Party did all they can to scuttle the Scottish independence referendum. They didn't say, it's your decision, Scotland. They said, we want you to stay. Here's some goodies here. Try and influence the vote, and got the result that they hoped for. And it's also led to, so as a flow-on from this Konstantin Kissin's taking exception to Fraser Nelson's view that anyone can be English. Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, who was a candidate for the Conservative leadership after Boris Johnson resigned. He wrote an article in the UK Telegraph saying that she could never be English. She's not ethnically English, and this resulted in Owen Jones disagreeing with her self-ID. So she said, "I will never be truly English. Here is why. For decades, political leaders have been afraid to celebrate Englishness for fear of being labelled nationalistic or xenophobic, but she does identify as British Indian." Now, obviously, India was part of the British Empire, so were a whole bunch of African countries. So it's fair to say that the Brits did lead many to believe that they were members of Britain through the British Empire, also the West Indies. And so some call it colonial blowback, because if you say to like the West Indians, the African nations and the subcontinent that you're always part of the British Commonwealth, then their argument is, why can't we come here? And this is why I am not a imperialist. I don't believe in empire. I'm a nationalist. I'm also a secessionist. So Suella Braverman can't be ethnically British either. But Owen Jones said, "Oh, don't be so fucking ridiculous. You're English. Get over it." Obviously, when it comes to colonialism of Australia and the United States, that's different because they were, well, it was settlement, not colonialism, because it was terra nullius, no man's land. I mean, sure, there were natives there, but they weren't a country. They weren't in abundant numbers. So that is different in that regard than colonizing a country like India, for example. Now, people pointed out to Owen Jones, if Suella Braverman said that she identified as a man, he would have no problem with it. But Owen Jones, I don't know, would he sleep with a trans man, a man who, well, is a biological woman? I'm not sure he's ever been asked that. Now, also visiting the UK was a Republican Texas Congressman, Dan Crenshaw, who fraudulently, when he was first elected in 2018, sold himself as a MAGA congressional freshman, when he was exposed in the first Groper War against Turning Point USA in 2019. Maybe Konstantin Kisin can evolve like Charlie Kirk did after the Groper War, though Konstantin Kisin would have to recant his woke right terminology slur. And maybe he could actually have a conversation with Tucker Carlson, for example. But I digress here. Well, we are going to mention Tucker Carlson because I remember a lot of the super chats that did go to Nick Fuentes during the first Groper War, and it was like Dan Crenshaw, more like Dan Crenshaw. And he was exposed as basically being just an eye patch John McCain. And so he was interviewed on a GB News about what he thought of Tucker. So the first bit you're about to see is what went to air. And then there was GB News decided to release the hot mic afterwards, where he vowed to kill Tucker Carlson.
$100 billion to Ukraine. I know that people like Tucker Carlson would make the argument that there's a real opportunity cost there. You know, we could have spent that money on the border or fixing, issues in America. Yeah. What do you make of that argument that all this money could have been spent to help Americans and not Ukrainians?
Well, you can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. We spend 75-80% of our budget on a welfare state in America, on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I would love to ask Tucker what he thinks that $100 billion should be spent on, and if he would vote for it as a conservative. Tucker doesn't know what he's talking about. Tucker likes to visit Moscow and talk about how great the grocery stores are. So I don't really take his advice very seriously. Thank you.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot. If I ever meet him, I'll find the telephone. He's the worst person.
Now, Steve Edgington was the journalist who interviewed Dan Crenshaw. And so he said that Dan Crenshaw said this after the interview, and Dan Crenshaw said that he didn't say that. And then what Steve Edgington did is then post the hot mic. Now, is that ethical as a journalist? I think if a congressman threatens to kill a fellow journalist when he thinks the interview was ended, I do think you have an obligation to air that. And Tucker Carlson was very gentlemanly, said, look, I'd be happy to interview you, Dan, after this. I'll even tell you where I live. And I saw that Luke Radowski of We Are Change posted who would win in a boxing match between Tucker Carlson and Dan Crenshaw, and most people said that Dan Crenshaw would, because he lost his eye in fighting the Taliban. Though of course Tucker tried to join the CIA, so maybe it would end up like the fight in Kill Bill Volume 2, where Tucker Carlson might have this secret skill to pop out Dan Crenshaw's other eye. Well, let's hope so. He's still he's made it a couple more terms, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, she reposted all of this. Yeah, so she has proven herself to be a MAGA Trump loyalist. Claire Lehman, her new term for MAGA is MAGAtards, and basically like, oh, we'll beat them like we did the workerati. So again, this radical centrism rubbish. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy, he formally announced his run for governor of Ohio, and he got Donald Trump's endorsement. Vivek Ramaswamy, governor of the great state of Ohio. I know him well, competed against him, and he is something special. He's also young, strong, and smart. Vivek is also a very good person who loves our country. He will be a great governor of Ohio, will never let you down, and has my complete and total endorsement. And he did a podcast, albeit it was in his own home, with no shoes on. So we saw his naked feet, which that's not very gubernatorial. Is that how you say it? It's certainly not presidential. I mean, sure, it's a cultural custom in the subcontinent and in Asian countries, shoes off in house. But he's in America, and that looks totally bizarre. I mean, is he going to do that in the governor's mansion? Is he going to do that if he ever gets into the White House? And did anyone see Ozpil questioning Charlie Kirk if the United States was 90% Christian Indian, would it still be America? And he said yes, but he's now recanted that and said, I probably didn't understand the question. I'm talking about if it was like that overnight, then it wouldn't be America. So he sort of backed down there. But yeah, Ozpil, he's going global now, and it's pretty good to get one up on Charlie Kirk. And of course, Vivek Ramaswamy is not a Christian. He's a Hindu. Kash Patel is a Hindu. He got sworn in as FBI director on a Hindu holy text. And also going back to the UK briefly, Priti Patel said she identifies as English. She is also a Hindu, as Rishi Sunak is. Now, also, Trump has backed for the governor of Ohio, a highly respected Congressman Byron Donalds is continuing to run for governor of Florida, a state I love and won big in 2016, 2020, and 2024. I know Byron well. I've seen him tested at the highest and most difficult levels, and he's a total winner. Byron has a great wife, Erica, and 3 beautiful sons. They're very proud of him. As governor, Byron would have a big voice, big in capital letters, and will work closely with me to advance our America First agenda. He will fight tirelessly to secure our border, stop migrant crime, strengthening our military, protect our vets, restore our economic power, advance American energy dominance, and defend our always under siege Second Amendment. Byron Donalds would be a truly great and powerful governor of Florida, and should he decide to run, would have my complete and total endorsement. Run, Byron, run. Now, this is seen as a rebuke to the plan, mooted plan of Ron DeSantis, who is term limited, to have his wife Casey DeSantis run for the governorship in 2026, because obviously Trump is still annoyed that DeSantis ran against him in the 2024 presidential primaries. And even though Trump basically made his political career by endorsing him for governor in 2018, which he only just won against the mayor of Tallahassee at the time, Andrew Gillum. And that was a too close election, because Andrew Gillum in 2020 was discovered by police in Florida naked naked on the floor of a gay sex orgy, spewing. That was a drug fueled gay sex orgy. So that could have been Florida's governor in 2018. DeSantis only just beat him, and it's, you would say that Trump's support helped get him over that line there. So I think in response, this is why Ron DeSantis, even though he's just a governor, has said that he wants to explore kicking out the Tate brothers from Florida, who it seems after lobbying by Trump official, his name escapes me for a moment, Richard Grinnell, secured changes to the Tate brothers' bail conditions in Romania that allow them to travel to the United States, because they're dual US and British citizens. If you've watched a lot of Andrew and Tristan Tate, they have these weird American British accents. They're half African American. Now, as you all know, I don't have much time for the Tates. I don't spend much time thinking about them, to be honest, though I did notice that all of the people on the, you would say, the right, who I have substantial disagreements with, and some of them quite annoying, were quite triggered by this. I'm sort of a bit like, well, if it upsets the people that I don't like, then it makes me satisfied in some way. But that doesn't, like I said, I'm not a fan of the Tates, even though I do find some of what Andrew Tate says on X funny. Bruce doesn't like the Tates. It says they're rapists. Brett Norman, every time old Tates gets media, they get more subs. They love this. Well, that's the case with a lot of these types of people, though. I mean, even though she's losing her mind, Claire Lehman, maybe she is also enjoying lots of the publicity as well, even though there's heaps who are saying that she's lost the plot, or some would say she lost it at the beginning of COVID. All right, that brings us to the end of another Tim's News explosion for another week. Now, as most of you will be aware, the Thursday Wilms Front interview with Minnie Jackson discussing cults versus religion did not take place, though hoping this week that I will be able to have that Wilms Front show, 7 p.m. Melbourne time, on the Wilms Front channels. So make sure, whether you're watching this live on YouTube or Rumble or X, or on replay on Odyssey, make sure you subscribe, click the bell for notifications, thumbs up, like, share, leave a comment below. And I'll also be hearing from Rocco Liconi, I think that's how you pronounce it, who's been a guest on Wilms Front before. He'll be giving me a Western Australian election preview. He works as an academic at Sheridan College over in Perth, a colleague of Augusto Zimmerman, is also a Sky News and Spectator contributor as well. So I'm looking forward to catching up with him. And then you can also see it'll be on the Unshackled YouTube channels. So make sure that you're also subscribed to that. But I will send out email alerts on Substack and also on all Unshackled Wilms Front socials. And remember, that's where Substack is where you can also support our work, as well as being the home of our Unshackled Productions archive. So you can sign up for $5 per month or annual $50 per year, or be a founding member for $500 per year. And over at the unshackled.net, where we still have our premium memberships, that's also where we still have our Unshackled articles. So bronze $5 per month, $50 per year, silver $10 per month, $100 per year, gold $25 per month, $250 per year, platinum $50 per month, $500 per year. And there'll also be a fresh report from Tiger Wollstonecroft later in the week. So I'll see you all again on Thursday, and then I'll see you all again on Saturday evening, 9 p.m. the Western Australian time. I haven't got panelists locked in yet, but I'm sure lots of our friends will be eager to come on and contribute. So good night, everybody. Stay safe, stay sane, stay free. Stay hopeful for world peace. As I've always said, I want what beauty pageant contestants want, world peace. And that's what Trump wants as well, who also used to run beauty pageants as well. And also stay white-pilled, because it was a big week this week. And the people who say that it's bad, the breakdown of the rules-based international order that's been the bedrock of global security since the end of World War II. What's happened this week is a significantly good thing. We should all put our country first. We should not be like Europe, not dependent on the United States for our own security. We really need to make sure that we have military capabilities here, and that also includes being a nation that can be proud again. So stay. that's the good type of pride and proud. So I'm digressing here. So good night, everybody. My final message is we should certainly all stay hopeful for because nationalism, it is going to return, and freedom is going to return. We hope that what we're seeing in the United States is emulated eventually in all our respective nations. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.